So Elizabeth, the story we want to capture is really your firsthand experience in Seattle. And you were, being an entrepreneur, you had your business going, you had a lot going for you, you made friends out there. What was it like being from Glenwood Springs and then going through such a pivotal time out there?
What was most challenging for me to embrace, coming from a small town and being so involved in my community, being from a small town, was the lack of community mindset. And so I understand community. Community is a strong value of mine. To see a situation where city leadership was basically sacrificing a city.
At that point, it's going to turn out to be survival of the fittest.
Yep.
And that's what you were seeing.
Yeah. And what was ironic to me was that, like, after seeing all of this outrage from my friends, and like you said, or like I said before, when all this stuff was going on, I was the only one talking about it. And then I saw everybody shut down, and everybody didn't want to talk about it anymore. And suddenly this was just, everybody just looked at their shoes and looked away. And there was a friend of mine that said, because she was so for this movement, and all of a sudden she said, there's this, I own a house in Capitol Hill, and there's this man outside my house, and I opened the blinds to look at him to see what he was doing, and he told me to turn around, and to close the blinds, and I wasn't allowed to look at him. And she said, I don't understand. And because she was so in the movement, right? She was like, doesn't this man see that I have a heart for his struggle? Why is he getting mad at me? And you can see how blindsided and how crazy people were, where they're just, this is her house, this is her home. Can you imagine something like that happening in Glenwood, where somebody comes, there's a strange man lurking in your yard, and you don't do anything, and you say, like, this is okay. She didn't know who that man was. She didn't know what his intentions were, what he was advocating for. She just thought she was instantly wrong.
What was your gut feeling about the situation?
So when this started out as this music festival, farmers market atmosphere, I felt there was something not right. And the reason being was because innocent lives had to be harmed in order to achieve that, right? And then the lingo everywhere was kill cops. Cops are bad. And suddenly I saw there was this push to hate cops. Well, anytime anybody's trying to really shove a hatred agenda on you, there's something wrong, right? The day that it completely shifted and that I knew something was completely wrong was the morning of the first shooting, when everyone went quiet, when citizens were cleaning up blood on the streets and everyone was quiet.
Do you feel like that was simply because of the media not really showing what was happening, or do you feel like people just had that kind of arrogance about it or ignorance about it, where they didn't think anything could happen to them because they're in a certain place in life that nothing can touch them? Or, what is that layer there? What is that layer behind that's covering that illusion of how dangerous the situation really was?
I think it's a combination of factors. I think it was where we were Seattle was hit hard, and we were all personally struggling, right? We were all having our own demons to face every day, right? There was people suddenly having to work from home with small children at their side every day. There was other people who were completely isolated and didn't have anyone to turn to. So everyone had their own thing going on, right? And then in addition, we have the city being completely destroyed. And I think it's generally, a city mentality is kind of like everyone for themselves, right? You don't really find that. That's the wonderful thing about small towns, is everyone has a kind of collective idea of how to behave, of like what happens in my backyard will eventually happen in your backyard, so let's take care of everybody. And that really isn't like found in cities. And so you kind of have the general city mentality, you have collective trauma going on, and then you have the media not reporting on it.
Yeah.
And then you also have a situation where people aren't leaving their homes. So how can they really know? So it was a perfect storm of massive corruption to happen and people to get away with it.
Part of that is simply because of the overall idea versus what the actuality was. And when I go back to like the BLM movement,
Yeah.
right? So it was the idea of BLM, which I feel like most people truly do support, but then the actual organization behind BLM, which was causing this whole thing to crumble.
It was the evil. It was the evil part in the pie. It was that people weren't seeing.
So the riots are happening. Did you ever get involved in any of them?
So there was a time, and I had stopped watching the news for my own mental health, right? And that was because of COVID, right? And there was a extreme push for fear, and so I said, I'm going to stay away from that, right? Well, I had decided to go across town. And this is when like the shelter in place had lifted, and I was able to go freely to a neighboring town outside of Seattle. And I got in my car, and I completely oblivious to like what was going on in downtown Seattle, what was happening. And I had heard that there was like a peaceful, and this was before the riots had came about, and I had heard that there was like a peaceful protest that was about to happen in downtown. And I was just like, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. You know, so far it's just been like groups of people just walking. I mean, we did have a time where there was peaceful protest. And so got in my car, didn't think anything about it. I have to go through downtown to get to where I'm going. And all of a sudden, my phone goes off, and it's like the Amber Alert sound, and it tells me that I need to return home and that there is an emergency of some sort going on downtown. And then it says there's a riot. I mean, this is coming right to my phone. Mm-hmm. And there's a riot that's broken loose. Well, I can't turn around. I'm on the highway at this point. So I turn on the radio, and there's the reporter on air is crying and saying, I've never seen something in Seattle like this happen before. And she was there during there was in the 90s, there was another riot that took place, and she said it wasn't anything like that. And she said, I've never seen anything like this. I've lived in Seattle for the past 30 years, and I've never experienced something like this. We've got 10 cop cars on fire. We have store after store completely barren. We've got the Old Navy. People are walking off with mannequins. All the storefronts are broken into. It's complete mayhem down here. At the same time, it was reported that an AR had been stolen.
The AR-15, the one
it
that's
was like
classified as an assault rifle.
From a cop car that had been lit on fire. And so one of these mob members was running around downtown with a gun. And I think that they, at the time, had 2 guns missing. And so imagine sitting on the highway. You can't turn around. The reporter is crying on air, talking about the devastation downtown, and you're right in the middle of it. And I didn't know what to do. And I looked to the right of me, and cars instantly start turning or going into the side lane and just going reverse, just straight back a mile, just in reverse to the nearest exit.
Wow.
Everyone's panicking. We don't know if the riots are going to come to the highway. We don't know what the people have. And we don't know if there's going to be a bombing. All we know is the highway is being shut down downtown, and I'm on it. And so I was right next to the next exit. And so I was about a mile south from the exit, and I was there for an hour sitting in traffic, and I called my sister and told her the situation, and I just start crying, and I'd say, I don't know what's going to happen, and she was crying on the phone with me, and I just said, I just have to get down a mile, and then I'm safe. I just have to get out of here. And so, and it was the scariest hour of my life, because nothing was certain. We didn't know what was happening. And so I sat there and I was just praying and just like internally melting down. And I made it to the exit and got off and got the hell out of Seattle.